The Hebrew text in the Bible has hidden formats. By revealing these formats, I will prove the first writer's words were hidden from you. These formats look like poetry as I group them into small paragraphs. Their grouping will become known as a psalm, and together they become psalms. Let me show you our Creator's 12 commandments, listed in Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17. Any father of a family or his wife who did not obey any one of these 12 commandments, our Creator demanded they bring him a sin offering. Thus, our Creator defined the word sin as not obeying any one of these 12 commandments. Next, I want to show you how I changed one word in Exodus 26, verse 26, the word bars to arches, and the words now reveal the style of the roof for our Creator's tent for meeting with Him. Let me show you the translator's words from the preface of the 1611 King James Bible. They gave 4 reasons for themselves or others to edit the Bible's words. The red arrow at the top points to their 3rd reason to edit the text. By the light and feeling we attained unto ourselves. The next red arrow down points to them giving the title, the Divine, to a clerk named Gregory. The next block of words, they point out they were happy that the first emperor of Rome established the year to the course of the sun. Behind this text means Nebuchadnezzar ordered his kingdom to follow our Creator's calendar when he stopped eating grass. Did you notice the letter S in sun is capitalized? This is to give respect to the Egyptian sun god Ra. Have you seen the Egyptian obelisk in the Vatican's front yard? The last arrow points to your reward for studying the Bible. Your reward is to have a fellowship with the saints and participation of a heavenly nature that will never fade away. There is no such thing as nature to a truthful Christian. Our Creator created everything. By their own words, they were not seeking to know our Creator or Jesus. Not everyone has the knowledge to correct every word. I have an old Bible program that has the New American Standard Bible 1977 concordance to help find a better word. Their concordance has the number of times they use that English word in a parenthesis for that Hebrew word. The translators removed his name, YHVH, to put in 2 titles, Lord and God. I replaced those titles using the letters Y and V as his name, for the Hebrew language does not have a J, O, or W. By using these 2 letters, I am closer to the truth than anyone using J, O, or W for his name. So why is there a single letter O in the Hebrew text 1,095 times? No proper English was used? The blue highlighted text is text that I am removing. The red highlighted words are little words that I'm adding. Gray italic words are words that I added. To respect and honor our Creator, all capital letters in purple are our Creator's words. This is Jesus' prophecy, for I am revealing the first writer's words to tell you the true truths about Jesus. As the text is revealed, you can taste the writer's style of wording. Their words will take your belief to trusting our Creator. You will be watching prophecy before your eyes as I edit true truths back into their psalms. All right, well, this will be the second editing of Jeremiah, which means I finally went through all of Jeremiah's text. I have cleaned up the old editing, and I have re-edited the text. And because it's like 52 chapters long, I didn't want to make 5 videos. So this was going to, so I did all the cleaning up. I did all the editing already ahead of time. And I'm going to go through it so you understand why I did a little different editing. I'm also, if you see right here, I've got these new marks up here and how I've got it divided by the chapter part 1. So I've got these all labeled and all divided when it changes subjects. The next video I'll do is I'll put all of them together. in an order. And I'm in the process of doing that right now. But the thing here is that is going to be a big mess because let me explain something. There's two different formats, and I've yet to discover why they have two different formats. And they have like stories. And I mentioned in the video in chapter 52 where it seems like text was coming from like the books that would be under the kings, and this would have been like under the king Zedek. But the thing here is I also found a lot of text not talking. Jeremiah couldn't have done these because it's too much of a timeline difference. The words just aren't being said right. So there's a lot of problems when they went and just distorted the text all over the place. And what I'm thinking is that they used two different, maybe three different writings. One has got to be from Kings, one's got to be from Jeremiah, and I'm thinking they got another one from Jeremiah. And then they've also taken text from either Micah or Uzziah, which would have been in the king of Manasseh's time. So for you who are new here, I should at least introduce you to what I am talking about as in the king line here. I had to open up and bring it over here. Okay. I'm now pretty sure that the text from Josiah, which the text literally has in the 13th year of Josiah, is when Jeremiah shows up. And it seems to be very truthful because he is young. Okay, and he does remain on the land afterwards. We have text from there. So, but when I'm talking that stuff is out of order, it's got to be back at this king's time. So it can't be all by Jeremiah in the text. But when I started editing the text, I know that I mentioned a lot of things that I needed to look over. An example, the vision is of prophecies, because the way the text is now telling me that this is like the book of Jeremiah, okay? One of them, okay? Now, the thing here is there's simple editing going on here, and what I've got here is, let's see, until it was even after, we have chapters that talk about what happened after the land from Jeremiah. So this would have been like one text of Jeremiah that doesn't explain everything, but I had to correct it as well, just by changing one word here. Now this before was empty lines, and I needed to start off Jeremiah. So this seems to be the earliest version or writing from Jeremiah, because he right here, he tells them, I am but a youth. Okay, now youth can be anybody under 18 years old, okay? Now, they did get married between 13 and 15 years old, so he could have been closer to 14, 15 years old. Now, what happens here, I have to use the word told here, because the story I have to start out is how he actually when it starts out, it says, in my vision. Well, I have to meet the format. As you see here, I'd have one group missing. It was pretty easy to figure out the text like this. Our Creator, while I was sleeping, YV spake to me. Whoops. YV spake to me. Now, in my vision, YV appeared and told me. Now, I have to add the word here added, and that's a problem because, as you know, the format, I usually try to keep 1, 2 major words in each one of these verses that I'm doing to meet this format. This I could not do, okay? To get the subject to read to introduction of how a vision would occur or happened. So I could have put the word YV on this end of the text here, but I wanted to set it up as written this way. Now, that depends later. I might change it, but right now, that's what I've got here. But I've got 3 major words in this verse, and I do know about it. Okay. Now, when it comes to you will speak, I learned from the other text that it was easy to say he heralds. Okay. And that's going to be with the other prophets when I get to them. They're all going to be heralding. That's what they did. They just didn't come out and on a street corner. They mainly went to our Creator's gate to his courtyard, and the king's house is across the street, and the guards would hear the announcement, and then they would probably go get somebody to write down what he's saying. The good kings would have done that, but that's the one location. There are going to be other locations in the stories that go from different places, but you should understand what a prophet is doing. As people are going by, he's going to tell them the story, and then he's going to repeat it, and then he's going to repeat it, and he's going to repeat it. Okay, so it's not like he's doing this once. Okay. And I had to add the word my prophecy because I have our Creator speaking here. Behold, have put, I will put, because before that, he touched his mouth. Let's see, I reached my hand and he touched my mouth. And YB said to me, behold, I will put my words into your mouth. Right, because you have to also understand that sometimes a prophet is told to go there and then his words will come to him and he'll say them at that time. Okay, so that's my decision on why I went with the word will. Now, what do you see? And he tells them, and we have a prophecy here. When I have the word set up, I changed it to the word camp. Maybe I should blow this up a little bit more. Sorry about that. Camp. So the thing here is that's an easy fix and easy to understand. But the word set up wasn't descriptive enough that I thought, because it's at the entrance gates, and they had 4 gates that I know of, okay? East, west, north, and south. The east one, we know, goes to Bethel and then goes all the way to Jericho this way in the land. We know one comes from the north, because that is the direction of anyways, you're going to just have to trust me, but the other one is the main highway going through the middle of the country, or of all the promised land. That path is known as the highway, and it's been used for thousands of years, okay? So when he's speaking to those, that means the merchants that are coming in, that are traveling this road and then coming in, the major merchants, okay? And then the crowd would leave and he'd say these things again, different places around these gates and by our Creator's gate for his courtyard. Now that you know that where he's heralding, he can also herald walking around the countryside, okay, at different cities. Had to do a lot of changing here because I pronounced my judgment concerning their evilness. It's announcing because this is so early and there's like another 20 years before this happens that they're going to be taken out. So this has to be corrected to understand that it's announcing. And then I realized that I don't need a lot of these words, and by forgetting me with sacrifices. So not forsaking him, but forgetting him. Okay. Now, to other gods, okay, I have been changing that because our Creator cannot admit or cannot truthfully say there's another God. He is our Creator. So this has to be to false gods. And I did change that in a lot of different times when I came through it. When I was rereading the text, I realized what I was doing. And what I did for that, what I did was I said, I'm making it like this and like this. So you'll see to false gods, because our Creator knows there's no other God. So that got away from me when I was editing the text in a lot of places. When you see the video, I was really tearing these verses up to get to them. And their advisors, when I'm reading it over, a lot of times who's the subject, I had to change. I was working on three at a time, and individually that's what was just happening. But you see, I did really good there. Now I had a blank space here, so I put this text in. Because this is what he's going to do when he has, when he sends them out. But the subject is not being, or this time, he's announcing, and then it'll happen in the future. So this was kind of easy, and it does fill in, and it does seem to be correct. I did have to put in Jesus here, Yah. That's the Hebrew word for Jesus. And pretty soon I'm going to make a video defining that, so I'll be able to say, just go into the description below and you'll see that video I have on explaining the name, or they might have started out as a title, but it pretty much became his name, okay, from the notes that I already looked at. So it's easy to see I'm removing some words there, and reject them, not yours, because it's 20 years down the line. And she marries another, not that she goes to another, have to have the adultery act involved, and that's marries another. Another time, here's a verse that was missing. And by sitting and meditating, you have a harlot in your forehead, and you refuse to be ashamed. Now, this verse is going to become very famous in the future, because right now everybody doesn't know about this sitting and meditating. And this is because this is going to be the title that every time you hear the word harlot is going to be meant for them that are meditating. Now we know that there's going to be whores, and then there's adulterers. So that's going to be the classification of what our Creator ends up saying, because this practice is what He is telling them that does not honor Him or respect Him. So, and it is all around the world, even today. So I don't think those are very hard. So, this is where I had to change the word harlot to adulterers. And then because of their harlotry, I had to add that. Towards them in the north. This is kind of like saying a location that he was just go out and say things. No, he was going to be these locations I explained, so it had to be about them in the north. And you notice this is telling me how early this text should be, because I don't have the word Babylon here. Okay, so that might be a hint that this text might have not been from Jeremiah, because by Jeremiah's time they should have known Babylon who it is. So this is some of the texts that might end up being from another time when they just didn't know for sure, or our Creator wasn't telling them for sure. Had to get rid of this verse because these two went together, and I didn't find location for this. So, and I didn't save this piece. There are so many small little pieces that were here that I've trying to find out where they go or how they get together. And you're going to see probably about 5 pages. My pages are 20 pages long, or 20 inches long, that I cannot say where they go, but I'm not throwing them out yet. But this wording is so common that I know that I don't need to stick it in the subject when I have a long verse. It's pretty much already included. Cast off to cast out. This is a big change because of what it means. And this means that, example, if they came to mock him by presenting a fake atonement for their disobedience of not obeying one of the 12 commandments, when the priest went in and talked to our Creator, he either said he's forgiven or he's not. When he said he's not, they literally took that whole family and chased them out of the land. Okay? Just cast them out. It's very important because these words mean so much when you know I'm trying to be very specific as to what these words mean when they're being said. So cast off is not correct. Cast off could be used someplace else, but cast out meaning off the land. Walk to live. And then I realized I had three words here, so I got rid of the tribes. Here again, I got rid of text that just, it does sound like it's kind of funny, but it does, to me, I read so many of these, it does look like it could meet something here or actually be okay. But this couldn't be in the text unless it's written way away from this text, okay? Because this would almost have to go with the nation Israel, or the nation Israel that was cast out, or cast out. That's a little bit editing. I had to change the word from altars and idols. The pillars is what they would set these idols on, but I didn't think when I was reading this and going over is this grouping of words that was the correct way to say this. You have to understand that you have to have something. You've got an altar there. Where's your God, your idols? Okay. So you have to have an idols, and then there would be this pillar beside them, and there would be there's the God that this altar's made for. And so you have to understand what pillars means, and then what's on them, so they know what altar they're at. Not the cities will be ruins, but they will be burned. And we know that. I know that because later is the prophecy that they will be burned. Yes, they're going to be made desolate, but it doesn't mean that ruins doesn't mean exactly the most descriptive word. And he repeats this many times about being burned. So now this was in the middle, so I had to mark it as a 4 verse. So here's a piece out in the middle yet. And I don't know why I don't have it labeled like what I've got here. So I'm going to have to check to see what I did and backdate this one to catch up on it. Or it's just going to be something I dropped and didn't do everything correctly. But those that study the text will, they'll learn that, and then they'll make note and say, here it is. And here's what he did with it. They aren't going to wash their hearts, they repent. I missed that. I should have. That one was too easy. When I seen that, I said, "Why didn't I correct that?" But to repent from your hearts, to be staying within you, not lodge. Lodging is going to be more or less a physical person going into like an inn to lodge, like they would lodge when they came to make their offering in Shiloh, and then they would go to the tent for meeting with him later the next day or something. You got to remember, these people are coming from all over the 12 tribes, and you needed a large city, which was known as Shiloh, that would have had inns and stuff like this, marketplaces, for them to come in, stay the couple days, and then take off or return home. They will raise with their voices. I thought shout was a better word. Again, your ways is kind of your life, but here I have it's your path, because it was talking about their evilness, and that's down the wrong path. Not that it's your life and deeds is bringing it. It's the path that you've chosen. So I chose this word to be understanding what the text around it means by using the word path. The trumpet is always a horns. The trumpet is made out of metal. Horns are from animals, and that's what they would have done. Remember, they didn't change their style of clothing from the time of Noah. Okay, so you have to understand they wore white hides, either from goats or from rams. Okay. The land, well, the whole land it means a nation, the whole nation. So that was an easy change. And devastation will be quick. Now, when I use the word, because sudden wasn't the right word, he's telling them that they're coming. So I couldn't use the word sudden. And when it comes down to being quick, it means within 1 year they're going to fall. Okay, so it might have been They were thinking that they have Jerusalem so well fortified that they could stick around for years to argue or battle it out. They're not stupid children, they're foolish children. The word stupid means you can't hear and speak, so that word I missed and should be foolish children. Were broken, were burned down, and that's the same thing as reason why I've changed it. They weren't just broken down, they were burned by the text later correcting this. Same thing here with nation. To Rome, he walked about in the streets, and believe it or not, this text goes way at the end, not at chapter 5. And some of these I had adjusted so I could say that these were part of a prophecy, or I didn't know. So when I was saying my justice, I was editing it and then guessing to see if I should make all these into the capital letters highlighted like this in this color. And it wasn't. It didn't happen that way. It is him writing like his afterthoughts about the subject that happened, or the history of what had happened while he was a prophet. I had to move YV from here to here, from look to act for his justice. He was looking for not just to look at his justice, but the act of his justice. Because, example, the poor, orphans, and widows don't have an abundance of money to have those that are against them to pile on, where the judge is supposed to be merciful and compassionate and not worrying about what these guys are saying. What does the judge understand what's going on? If he knows that they're going against, trying to say, kick the orphans and widows off their own land, that's when he says, no, you guys are wrong. I'm backing you guys. I don't care how much money they got. That's the type of justice he was seeking from them, that mercy and compassion. So not everything is done per the law. They turned their faces. They didn't make their faces. They had made their faces hard. No, they turned their faces from him, harder than granite. Rock was too easy, and they knew the house was made out of granite, and Solomon called it a forever house. So they knew granite was very hard. Okay. Pray to him, surely, or foolish. Why be there foolish? Now, these words, like I said, was him talking to our Creator, and I don't know at what time. I'm still scrambling with all the different texts, but they will go is the same thing as went. Just smoothing out the words. A prophecy was better than commanded from you, is for their soul. Added the word mankind because when I read it, I was thinking about using this word now in Judah, but the subject overall was telling me there's another word missing, so I put in the word mankind. I think these are really easy to see or understand. Declared a promise, that's a big difference. This has to be promised and not declaring. Declaring is announcing this is going to be it as it is, and then people will say, well, we didn't mean to leave the remnant. What about the remnant that were there, the poor and the weak and the ill and the sick? What happened to them? How come they didn't go? Well, that's what it's got to be here, the word promise, not a complete ending. And then this is going to be, it will come after YHVH has done all these to us. So these words are him prophesying what they're going to say after everyone's gone. So that's pretty, it had to be, the text is telling me that it needs to be placed that way. A lot of these you're going to see come up, they're just my notes. This needed to be reworded to be said correctly and read smoother. People, I changed to generation for the simple fact that a generation is pretty much 60 years. Then it's another generation. So that's why I use the word generation, because it's not this people, it's over many years, this group of people, okay? Is the way I want, or way I'm understanding the text should be about, is the generation of people, not just this people here that I'm talking to or about. Wicked, they have to be turned into evils now. Hear how they're supposed to defend the orphans, cause problems for the orphan, cause the problems of the orphan. They do not plea. Okay, here's a perfect example. They didn't plea or do what I was saying was being merciful for and having compassion on the orphan. They're just going to get used. You can't have that. That's not our Creator's will. I had to add this word because I think I forgot, again, the pattern. Divining seers. So these are the ones that sit and meditate, and then a special group of them decided to become like prophets that I called seers. So that's the understanding of this. Not in the midst, it's on the land for Judah. Horned or blanket flags, you know. This, it just read so wrong right here. And this, I just figured it's useless. So it's out. Changing the word vine to field. Gleaning the field. Actually, our Creator is going to give a law back in the time they got into the promised land that they weren't supposed, they can harvest the land, and then they could go back and see the main or the most group that was overlooked, things like that, but they couldn't glean it. It was to be left for those that are poor and needed to be able to exist. They could come into your field, and then they could go search, and they could keep that. And that's what our Creator law was. They will be like a glean field. Still don't have an answer for what's in here. I tried it and I couldn't get it. And I don't know if this I've added older together. Yeah, I just got rid of the word together because there was 3 in there. Maybe I did add this. You're going to have to check. And I had to leave, the better word was remnant here. This group again is, these are just words so far away from what's being said that I had to call that out as when I was reading it that when this text goes forward, I got to keep it yellow. So some of these are my hints for myself. You can see the small adjustments here. So I'm using this, and yes, it's 3 words, but I couldn't do it any better. I just couldn't. That one was a hard one. When I read it, it just didn't real what it is among them. What is done among them. And that's the meditation practice. Okay. Simple corrections, simple corrections, simple corrections. Trust is anyone. This was a law not to harm the stranger coming through because you were strangers in Egypt. So that was a law that there he's going by. It's his justice for your neighbors, and you do not oppress the stranger or anyone, really. I thought the word better was anyone because you guys might not know the laws as well as I do. So here's where I started doing the false gods. In this group, I ended up moving down. So this group, because I think when you read this and skip this one because it's out of place, that it reads better down here, right down here. Abominations turned into idols, and this abomination is pretty much a word that's going to be used as the act of having the act of lightness of releasing a seed. That's what abomination is going to end up meaning. Idols. So I can't use it correctly that way, one way, and then another way. So I finally said, calling it red line, saying from now on I can only use this word a certain way. Now this was unique. When I read this, now there's 300 years missing, okay? And what it is right here. From Joshua's years, after the promised land is divided up, there's years that are missing, and then this happens. And Israel is already separated from Judah. Okay? Now, our Creator is going to do this down here. Okay? At this time. And make them 2 nations. Right now, they aren't nations, but they're divided, and we don't know why. This was one of those eye-openers that said that at this time in Shiloh, they were doing the same practice in his tent. Okay? So that is going to be historical information of why what happened in those missing years. And it's going to come from these verses right here. And this fit perfectly to go with it, that it was out of place. You bring it down here, and this is what it means. I put made up gods here, and that's pretty much, I would say, dictating from that time, okay, when it was a tent, or this tent was by Shiloh. Okay, had to get rid of some words, again, too many. I used the word nor and outcrying. changed the word from queen of heaven to goddess. That is what, if you have a sun god, you know that it's got to be the moon goddess, okay? Other false gods. See, this I was supposed to change to that color. And I'm adding it. This text could not be said by Jeremiah. And that's what was unique. I started finding 3 or 4 of them like this, so I noted them that way to help me to first edits were to get them and move them as to the very front of the book, because it's going to happen before Jeremiah. And yes, I'm getting really close to figuring out how to get, it seems like they don't allow free file storage anymore. I guess I've been away from that for a while, because it used to always be free. Dropbox was free. And I think we had like 10 gigabytes that we could put up there and link, and anybody could go look at them. Or you could close them down and nobody can get to them. Yeah, I think I rearranged this sentence. I might have had 5 in this one, because you can see there's a lot of text here. Like this could have been the next one down. So this area might have been reworked. And I to do that, command this, because the word this is such an important part of this subject. I couldn't use these as the second word. Command this. Away to life, walked, lived. Those are pretty easy once you start realizing and you're reading it there. I built them pillars to be placed near cities. Have built them high. That isn't true. So if I'm keeping the high, it would be pillars. Now you know that the altar there was a pillar, that they were higher up, a lot higher. So this is very descriptive of what a pillar would have been, and they replaced them in the cities. Let's see, anyways. I think I changed. I think I had just a partial here and was going to figure it out. So that's what I did, was I added it. Because when I started reading it over and over all the way through this, because I try to understand what it's meaning, the time, the place, who's doing this, and this was their way. I could have put, you're saying, well, he used path before. That's true, but their way was more descriptive, or I thought a better use of the word than path. Behold was changed to holding on to their lies. But even at this time tells us in the text that they were rewriting the text they had, and they were writing it for their God. Captured, the answer ended up being killed. The captured were the ones that he was going to bring back the descendants from. So anybody else, these wise men that are going to belong to this other group, they're going to be killed off. That's the whole purpose of what our Creator's prophecies said over many times. That I'm killing them off. And even the people that are starting to get too close that way, they're gone too. This I left in here, I know, on purpose, and because I was thinking it might go someplace, but because you can see I got part 5, part 6, and I didn't see where this actually went with any of those different parts, because, okay, well, this is mainly 4 verse right now, so had to move that word around. Probably should have done that when I was probably saying it, but probably did it backwards. Making videos and explaining and keeping things all in one is a little bit more challenging. My brain just kind of makes errors. Or my mouth will be speaking them wrong, and I'll place it into someplace else. They're gone, they're leaving. They're going to be leaving is pretty much the main subject here, that they're leaving as well. A lie, their tongues deceived is the more correct word. Lies, yes, but deceive is a better description of what they were doing. And they lived with their evilness. Okay, that'd be the foreigners coming in. Said the prophecies, tongues, their tongues is deadly. I probably needed to change this to were deadly, but their tongues speak with deceit from their mouth, is deceit from their mouths. The tongue speaks, and then the deceit was from their mouth. This breath we can't see, that they would have known it as that's the words are in that breath. They didn't understand sound waves. But you could see sound waves that were coming from the tongue. They didn't have the voice box yet. Acted again. This acted word is specifically going to mean the cohesion of them working together for this to happen. Okay? No one lived. I don't think there's that many there that's really... Cutting tools, I changed to shaping tools because cutting tools could have been like a saw. You've got hammer and chisel. You got, make blocks. So shaping tools is more descriptive than a cutting tool. Under heavens, it's to be under the earth is the way it is. They will perish from the earth and be under the heavens. No, they'll... I've talked many times about what the abyss is, so that's why I'm correcting it. They're in the ground under the earth, or inside the earth. Do not heed means to obey, so that's pretty easy change. Obey, it needs to be here as well. Get rid of saying. Now, when I come through here, I needed this verse here to be put at the top for it to read smoothly as a statement, and then what happened. I read this over a couple times. I kind of, what's bugging me here? Then I realized that these two don't really connect together as well as these did, and then when I put that up there, it made sense. A lot of work going through and reading and dividing and labeling. And when I made a mistake, I had to use A's and B's. So this might have been one of those areas that I said, okay, well, this group's together, and then read it the second time or third time, and no, this is still needs to be divided. And I decided on goats to be slaughtered because they were in the field. Now, when they come together, I realize that they're going to group up separately. And goats do that more than rams. Rams really stay together. The dogs keep them circled in together. Not to be devoured, but to be slaughtered. when I had this text here, this works if I get rid of this and make it a 3 verse. These are pretty much meaning the same thing anyway. This verse just stuck out. I think I got another one that I'm still carrying forward, and it's just the word said, I think. But yeah, you or they. Some of this text, I think I'm going to end up changing all of it down because it reads like it's prophecy, but it can also be written as being said that he said these things. And you'll see a lot of that in the next one, and then when you'll see it when it's finally done, you'll see what I'm talking about, how he's writing as the story of what happened. And then he'll just mention that at this time I told them his prophecy, and then there'll be a group of words that are his prophecy, but it's like a summing up of his prophecy and not so much prophecy. There is no vegetation for this, no rain. So there are no springs neither. Not that it's vegetation. You got to understand, they had so many spring wells out there at 2,000 years ago. This land, you can see that the land structure from the Jordan River comes up, and this land here, which we know today we call Jordan, is this 3,000 feet higher than anything over here. So all this water that's coming down over here over the years, even though I know it's got a desert, but this land did receive water, and over all those years that this water goes under the aquifer, that would have been coming up out of the ground before it was going into the Mediterranean Sea. So this would be a lack of vegetation. Okay, I'm going to have to make a note on this just to say that I'll look into that. Maybe I can leave it as vegetation, but they were out looking for water is what it is. And if there were springs out there, like I said, there would have been, but if they were sent them out to look for their cattle to go feed in a different area. And so I put down springs. That's what my thinking was at that time. Got rid of that text. It just way too simple, not there. Same thing here. Didn't fit. Get rid of it. And it reads a little bit better, but there's still words missing. Cause to planned. I think that's easy to be understood. Yeah. And then just like this, I added this verse and then later realized that these go together with this story. So I had to make it a 3 verse. And then down here, I had to make it a 3 verse, but I had to connect it. And I did connect it before, but that was because I was trying to make it a 4 verse. Then when I got done, I said, hey, I got to get rid of this because now this is descriptive to what this is verses above it. That was kind of strange how I did that one. but it come out. And here's another one that it could be a 4-verse, but still, this was before. Yeah, I guess I should take that one because I got that one set up separate as a piece that I don't know where that's going. So this one here. Yeah. This lent money out of it. There's nothing in the text as far as anybody borrowing or anything. So this is, I know there's verses in other books that would be talking about this, but nothing in any of the 60 or 52 paragraphs or chapters out of anything that was even left over to find a hidden format does not match with this. So I got rid of it. Freely to willingly. He wants to do not freely, but willingly. He wants to will it. That's the correct word. This, I was thinking that these words right here might go better place someplace else because these don't quite, I didn't think really had a great matching as a lot of the writing when you see them how they are grouped as two small paragraphs making larger paragraphs. This one didn't seem to me read a little bit odd, and you can see the writing style. This one's a lot longer than this one. Even if you get rid of this here and some of that, it still becomes just a little bit different. Those are easy. Sit with whores. This is talking about, this is like what he's talking about. Now this group we haven't come across yet, so it's got to be down below yet. And I've had to start coloring them because there's going to start being a lot of them that are going to be moving around here. Here's where it was at. Okay. And because this, again, I thought the group that goes with the D part, okay, that I got up here. Or this text would go after the D. But it's, some of these are my notes, and when I looked at them, it was making more sense just to leave them where they are for right now. But this is the group that got moved up here. Do not enter, right? Yep, do not enter. And yeah, I was going to move it, but I didn't. This is going to make that. And this is just because I read it as the story now, and it has to be R, not just himself speaking about himself. Yeah, got rid of it. Just no way that the two verses are going to make anything to add to this. In fact, I found actually verses that went with that pretty smoothly. Someplace I did good. This had too many words in it, so I had to get rid of this. Okay, I moved this group up to here, and that's all. It just reads in place better that way. This was another one that was like, what's going on here? This text. Now here he's at the east gate, and I think when I looked at it, I changed it to West Gate because it's talking about the travelers going by. And there would be more people there than at the East Gate when you realize the East Gate is just going to. It actually, you might be seeing this in reverse. If I'm looking at the map, looking down at the map, Jerusalem is here and this goes like this and then it goes down. And I think the road over here connects to the other road that's been there for a long time from Bethel to, because at the time Saul became king, he made the capital city for Judah or all Israel, Bethel. And then they've had that path since, because Shiloh is located right here, because when they came into the promised land, I had to locate Shiloh there, because when it talks about how Joshua went and conquered the promised land, they went down, or no, they went sideways and then they went down and then they worked their way up. So he wouldn't have moved his tent around. He would have got there. So from this also would have been to get to this main highway from Jericho would have been a really old road as well. Very old. I think Jericho was one of the oldest known cities in the promised land. Yeah, this was dating the text. I was looking at hints, and when I seen them, this is what that's my note. Now you know how many times I had to change this. I should actually record that one day. How crazy YouTube does this, telling me my stream's healthy, and then the bit rate's too less. And like right now, I didn't pay attention to it, even though I saw it. All of a sudden, I seen it jump, and so it says now it's healthy again, and I didn't do anything. But it fluctuates. You're supposed to. This computer's supposed to, I thought, put out exactly one rate, and that isn't what happens. I'm trying to change their word when they do these false words. They know they aren't prophecies. The writers wouldn't do that. And I haven't quite decided whether it's fortune telling or foretelling or predicting. So this word might be changed, but this is the start of my changing of this word. Prophesy when they're doing it. Overcome, overwhelm, same thing. So I think it's a better fit word. Persecutors to oppressors. That's they were clamping down. They weren't chasing after him. They were oppressing him. Way to path here again. I'm using the word path. Judah to Judeans. It needed to be Judeans. It has to mean the people, not the word the kingdom Judah. Took out a verse to keep with the rest of it. Otherwise, I would had to note it would have been a 4 verse, but it fits. So here I got rid of Jerusalem and put in house. Because gates for Jerusalem, no, that didn't describe what's going on here. This, believe it or not, it doesn't, there's text in between, so I know they got this added, and I don't have the text that fills in even today as I'm working, and this is still yellow in the text. The death of not to regard what he is about Jeroboam. When you read it, he's going to die, so it has to be death. Can't be regard to Jeroboam. He's going to have a burial like a donkey's burial. Okay, so that's how bad this king was. Speaks to brag. Yeah, I would have to say brags, because this has to be about what he was doing so bad. And it was probably because he was bragging, not that he just speaks about it. He's bragging about it. Collecting taxes from the people. A little bit of corruption going on. Give me the money. I want more money. Okay, now this is a great big long group that was moved here. Oh, that's it right there. But that was a big group, and I think that moved under 3. That went, oh, this is 3. Okay, so there it is right here. When you reread these over and over and over, you do remember a little bit more when you're not making a video that the subjects are still in your mind, and you're kind of like, well, this just needs to be moved. And when you read it, you'll find that that's a real good place. And it doesn't read that well right here. So, in fact, I was going to make it as notes for later to move when I do everything. Then I thought, no, I want to move large groups, and to put what I could put together here to change it, I did in here. Well, I'm thinking I'm a little bit more than halfway through right now. So, life and this should have been the gray text. I better remember that. Check that. Going to it too often. Let's just stick it right there. That text got thrown out. I think it's because it's a bad beginning. And it's the same thing over and over. Like I said, when you start seeing me putting the pieces together, I've got like 3 stories that all say pretty much would be text referring that when this king here, Zedek, become king, this happened. Bing, bing, bing. So it's kind of like a multitude, that it just wasn't, they didn't start with 2 books. They took many different books and used whatever they wanted, and then they probably burned them because we can't find them in their scrolls. We've got scrolls that are in museums that are 4,000 years old, and the ink on them is perfect. It looks still good. So, and this, I needed to have something here. When I had this verse here, and this becomes a long story here, there has to be a text here. This text is actually going to end up being one of the first prophecies from Jeremiah, by the way, and we're in 24. But you'll see how well it fits, and he's still explaining how he's receiving them. And then after he does this 2 or 3 times with the word vision, these are the words that I received from our Creator. So, regard, he's going to save them. These are going to be the remnant, so get rid of that word. They got carried away with that word a couple times. And I don't think they had that word back then anyway. Make to cause their return. He's going to cause their return by doing many different things in Babylon. But he first does tell them that's going to happen and they're going to be brought back. But this cause is for it. That might be just 1 or 2 words here. Will cause. There's a lot of things that go on with that word in Daniel. Example: 3 guys get tossed into fire, come out clean, not even smelled like fire or smoke. This verse again had to be moved up to make sense of what's going on, because this is going to happen and this is going to happen and that is what's going to happen later in the story. But this is when he's talking that this is going to happen at the beginning of his prophecy of this time when the king is finally this king. The rejected and Judah remain in the land. And this means that Babylon isn't going to take the sick, the poor, the elderly, or those that can't make the trip. So they rejected them and left them, kind of like, no, we're taking these captives and these can be left behind. Now this I got rid of because I could not find a proper place for that text to happen, even though that's going to have to be common knowledge that he becomes king. But where this would go and in what group it would go to, I couldn't find it. Got rid of this text. It went from 4 verse, 3 verse, and even today, 2 tens and 3 years later. This, like I said, they're trying to put times and dates in here. And like I said, that's why I corrected the first one to mean even after, okay? To correct the date up there is to say it was written later. Yeah, there's nothing here. Oh, this is important. This is a big change. This is what's going to happen when they're in Babylon. That's when the people are going to start returning, and it's 40 years. You understand it as 70. But the thing here is it might have taken 70 years to rebuild the complete city of Jerusalem. But right now, I've done Daniel and the return and the timing and that. Daniel is a youth, okay, when he goes up there. Then he gets some training, and then he's going to be the one that's sent back with the utensils. So when you see in Daniel that it's written that it says text in Aramaic, well, that's because Daniel wrote that. So when it talks about the return letter and you find out those are written in Aramaic, Daniel's the only one that would be able to be right, wanting to send a letter, letting them know that, hey, I'm the guy that speaking to you in your own language. So he's going to be about 60 years old when he's sent back. So if I had him at 70, he would be like 80 something, and they didn't live that long. So this has to be 40 years. In fact, I think this is going to be the text that Daniel is going to be studying, okay? When it says it was book from Jeremiah, this is what he's going to be reading as this text. And Jeremiah is going to write a letter to them. So I don't know if they're going to take all the collection of this or not. Because we don't know what they got it so messed up. They didn't care. And me, I like to be precise about everything. All told, tell Caroline, all to everything. This I still don't know about, or I had questions because I wanted to look at it when it's all cleaned up after I got rid of this editing. So it seems like the story is still confusing when I've got it separated. Because he's going to be put into stocks, he's going to be put into a home that they're going to have, and it seems like that is a home for the commander for the for the guards that were guarding the gate. They stopped him from Jeremiah from going. They made a claim he was going to go to the enemy and leave, and then they put him in a house. But this has to be, all these stories have to be smoothly put together, and I think they took liberties and changed names, and there's only really 1 or 2 times they did these things to him, and not the 3 or 4 times that are in the text from here. But I had a verse missing, and I thought that that's a really good added text for the story to continue. This verse, I think I missed it. There was blank. And after reading these, I felt that this needed to be said in the text. So that's why that's there. And it will read better when you can read all of it. Okay. When you're trying to read right here, this might not work out right. You need to see more. And it has taken me probably 3, maybe 4 days to do after this cleanup. It's still taken me that long because I had to come back and do some editing here that I didn't want to double, triple edits. The same thing here. When the story is here, it ends and there was a blank. And I thought that this was to be exactly what was going on with the story. So a lot of these are going to be in gray, so I'll know that when I'm adding them. So when I put the stories together, maybe this doesn't go there. So maybe it's to run into the next story. Easy. They were predicting, not prophesying. Same thing here. This had to cover over, and again here, this is like another beginning of the story of another story of when Zedek was king, all of a sudden our king. This was when he was talking to him. I changed the word from diviners to seers because it's them going out talking about their predictions, not so much that they're just one who sits and meditates. Yeah, and this text was out of place because there's a story. Yeah, there's another story that's in here that he's going to tell this guy that said these things, or the opposite of these things, and then our Creator's going to have him killed. Okay, this group right here got moved up. So that's what this text here is from here to here is where I moved it up. I forgot to mention that when I seen this. That's where they come from. Israelis, I'm using this as specifically that the good people still obeying our Creator. That had to be better than just my people. Yeah, predicted again. I'm not sure if I like that word. Foretelling is. In this, I know that these two words are going to be correct now, but I don't have these down yet in the whatever. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be likely the year, like 2 and 10 for somebody. Anyway, Jerusalem had to be land because it was including all our people from exiles that are going into exile, so it couldn't just be from one location. And then they took captives from Judah. They took them for marriage, not for wives, but for marriage. This is what they're supposed to do. This is his letter to them, and it's very as Christians, most what I've seen throughout history, when they go to another land, say like in Europe, that they would take on the identity of the country because the words are here that to all exiles that I'm going to send, you're supposed to build and plant gardens on that land, and then here they're going to take from your own tribes for marriages, and then you're supposed to care for the welfare of that kingdom wherever I've sent you into exile. Means don't cause no trouble in the other lands, and that should be holding true for everybody. And that the only race now on this planet is the Muslims. They just have got a really, really corrupt. They're getting lied to so big time in their news that they get. Man, one-sided, distorted, untruthful lies. Just amazing that they would do that to their own people. Removed it. I can't remember why, but probably it was just the end, and I thought this would be the end anyway, so this doesn't need to be said. Because prophets are going to be raised up. Daniel's going to be raised up. Okay? So it wouldn't have been prophets. It would have been a prophet for us in Babylon. Again, no text is needed here. That's just, in fact, this is from like Ezra's book. Okay, no, or Zephaniah's book. This name comes up, although it's in other books as well, but as the high priest. But at this time, the bad guy is Imra, I think, or something like that. There's another name, or son of Imra. But you can see in the text here that he's also telling that when you return, I'm sending him. Now that's another thing. Okay, maybe this is, see how many small little pieces are coming about? And this, I thought I had it as guards, that he was in the courtyard and the guards, but he was actually chained. He was locked up in the courtyard of the courtyard guardhouse. I guess I got to get rid of that word. And I moved this verse up there to make it read right, because you had to need to know whose courtyard you're talking about. Okay, so, but I realized from reading the other text that he's in this guard house, but he's chained in there. So they don't really have guards over him, although there's guards stationed there to look after him. Don't need this text. The Chaldeans are only a force within Jerusalem, in Babylon. In the house I was guarded. That come from reading the text over and over. That because he has to be someplace, and I've got him in the house where he's at. And I don't know what time that is because the story is just so goofy. But that's for the next video. And all my head shaking I'll be doing there. Because his uncle's name is already mentioned, I needed this word and this word as major words. Get rid of that. Understand, I changed it to repent from my prophecies. They wouldn't understand them. They're not to understand them. They're supposed to know they're going to happen. But repent from my prophecies, meaning that if they return to him, that's better than not understanding what he's saying. This is where it come up again. There, I got rid of the word with guards. Yeah, Jerusalem wasn't desolate yet, even Jerusalem, because it has to be here. That which means without flocks in the streets as well. And that would have been in the cities. Well, if I come into Jerusalem, it has to be even Jerusalem, because this doesn't read right here. You have to include Y as a subject for these two to go together. So, priest by his courtyard. That's another note to myself that I didn't do any editing there. I did get rid of this. This is kind of like they had other cities that had built up walls out of wood, but you can't recall them fortified. I would call them forts, more or less. Forted cities, not fortified, but fort cities. And then the text didn't seem to want to fit in place, so. But you can see I finally figured it out here. Took me a while. Changing the dates and times for the stories to start to fit together, for it to be in the winter fireplace was going. So that usually, I know after the winter solace, those 2 months, you know that's cold. But it could be that month before, so I'm trying to put that in their calendar timeline correctly. So that's what I've edited now, and it might get changed yet again. But I thought that was the best I could do right now. Didn't need these to meet the format. Because when you read the story, he's got to come inside for them to say, please read what you wrote. Not why, but how did you write these prophecies? And here is a jump with a blank space. I need blank spaces because the words are telling me it's here, but I can't figure out how to say this correctly without, so it's kind of like a hesitation that we went to our king in his courtroom. He's going to burn it. He threw it into the fire's flame. And this text goes with this story, so it was just continuing. That's why I don't see any green around that. will make man and mankind to cease. You were not worried about donkeys being ceased from the city. That's already been said. It was to get rid of mankind. Again, too many verses. Yeah. He was beaten and jailed. He wasn't really jailed. That's the problem. I mean, where he was being held at in this house for this guy here, this is the story I was telling you that he was leaving. Okay, he was leaving, and then they said, no, you're going to the enemy. So this has to be a guard stopped him. And then he had to bring him to his commander, and his commander, who's this guy here, he hated him because he's probably heard about what he's been doing, making all the prophecies, had him beaten and held because somewhere he's got to be able to take the money out of his pocket and pay his uncle that's going to come and see him. And I forgot to put the R in here, so quit laughing at my spelling. Yes, I know I'm terrible. These I got rid of. I had these different colors saying that this works, but this doesn't. I didn't know which one to use, and I decided this one's going to get used. And this can't be saved. This guy is mentioned above. He's going to throw him in the stocks, but you can't have him there because these guys are going to go into the king's house and complain about him. And then Zedek told him, then they told him he deserves death. And then the king reminds him, I'm the king. No, you will not kill him. This is the guard that was guarding him now that he's in the king's courtyard with that you've seen the text above. But they threw him down a well, and this well seems to be inside the courtyard of his house. So that's unique of the text. I did not know there was a well inside the courtyard, but that's why the king, because when you understand the text right here, when the king commanded, take your men under your authority and bring them out, meaning he has the right to go into the courtyard. That's what this is meaning about, under your authority, which means they know that he is, this guy here is an important guy from the king. Okay, so that's why I had to edit the text that it's their well and get him out of there. Now the king might have one, but they wouldn't. That would have been, he didn't need authority to do that. So when I had the words authority, they had to go that. So it had to be. It's across the street, by the way. This is when he's going to lock him in his guard-yard, in his courtyard's guardhouse. Needed that because he had to go someplace. Okay, because later his guard brought him to him. So this has to be the correct answer here to fill in the gap. Yeah, didn't need this verse. I needed it to match 3 verses. It went down. To our cities, not just Jerusalem itself. Went through all the land, burning them. This is the description I was telling you. And they burned with fire his house and the homes in not just Jerusalem, all the cities, all of Judah. Here he is chained, okay? So I had that as a reminder when I was reading them. What is this? Because it was guardhouse here. When I learned that, when I was writing it or editing the text later, it became obvious to me that it was guardhouse. But when I read chained, that was a new added fact to the story. And then you get rid of this because this group is here, and it goes on through the text. I probably had a line here, and because I can remember when I'm editing this, the story is written smoothly, but it's kind of like he had to leave and then returned for this subject to come over, where he come over and said, "I'm secretly." Like somehow there might have been another 2 paragraphs here, or to make a larger paragraph, but I summed it up by saying it this way: that the guy didn't believe him, and then so he left and he returned, and then he said these. So that was my quickest way to put a band-aid on this, so the understanding of the subject was smoother. And it'll probably still be a hiccup for a lot of people when they're reading it. Yeah, I had to change the dates again. Just because when the stories are going, it's kind of like you can't do it that far apart. And then there's some that were so close that needed to be separated. So these I cut down just because I like making it simple for everybody. And then changed Memphis to Cairo so we all know the location. So they never called it Cairo, but today's age, it's very easy to have the understanding of where this location is when you're reading a text, because it's going to be very important later when you understand Ezra was called to the kings, to the king of Egypt. So yes, they were in Cairo. Some of them were, or at least Ezra was, and he was a scribe, not a priest. The priests didn't exist anymore, so he could only be a scribe, and he wasn't a prophet. But the king wanted to know the story of what's going on, so he talked to Ezra and then decided, okay, Babylon's going to send them back, and yep, they agree that they're the ones in charge, and the king literally sending everything back. Yep, we got trashed before too. We still remember that. Yes. Let's not anger them. Let's go help them reestablish Jerusalem in his house. That's just a little correcting editing text here. It changed the word from just fathers to include the parents here, and then had to move this up because you can't have the parents and then have stronger authority in the verse when writing. You got to place these in order, who's got power, okay, and why they can say that we're doing this, roasting our sacrifices to the goddess of heaven. In heaven, this should be a capital H, meaning the stars heaven. And this was unique. I understood they wrote them in scrolls and then later they were put into books. But at this time, a scroll is something that they could not change. So that's why he was having them write them in scrolls. So they couldn't just change, the book, tear up the pages, write it on a scroll, and made it something that was a little more difficult for them to get a hold of and change. I'm thinking this is going to be his name here anyway, but I should do that because I want to check that. I was going to do that and forgot to do that. Okay, here, this again, not from Jeremiah. Okay. This was, yes, because this text here I had to add in because if it's concerning Assyria, and then they had the fight and they defeated them, that Assyria was defeated, I had to put it in here that Babylon won the battle and Assyria lost. So I pretty much moved this Assyria up here. And then I said this is where they were defeated at, that this was the last battle. And then their king was captured at this place east of the Euphrates River. Because it means that Babylon had come out to capture them. When you understand the land structure and the rivers, how big they are, Babylon was so well protected, that area, and that's a nice chunk of land that would have been very easy to defend. There was only one way to come in. So this here, same thing. Because they never had a battle to draw up for battle array at the time for Assyria. I mean, for Babylon. They didn't do that. The text doesn't indicate that anywhere. Okay, moved here. Okay, we'll group up. Moved. We were, here. I forgot to do here. Always a nice thing. Yeah, this is when this was so confusing. And this was, like I said, now this is the chapter that I said, give it away, that it come from the book of Kings. Okay. But this, look at how many verses I had to move around. I had to move them around. And when you see how beautiful it is when it's written in the correct order, that was a challenge. That was a little bit of work. But this is going to be the last big one, and it was just me moving that these all went crazy. And that's why some of these dates I'm still not sure of, but I was trying to keep the dates as close as true, and said if this is true, this date's got to happen after that, this got to happen after this, that can't happen yet, this has got to happen first. So, and then it's the story of, I had to change, it was in the 11th year, the 19th year for Nebuchadnezzar. When I did a timeline study on this guy's age, again, you can't have him like 90 years old. This, I think, puts him in his late 60s. If this is can't have him 70 years old, in his 70s. Very rare did the kings of Judah live a long time, but then because they were obeying their creator, he would have blessed them to live a little longer, to see their children. It's children, by the way. Now, see, I've got this captain's name here, and you probably would have seen it with a W or a Z on the end and others. Oh, here's the high priest that I was talking about earlier. So I've still got to figure out that because there's more of that. But let me see here. because it looks pretty good when it's cleaned up. So what I'm going to do here is just for a second. No, it's going to be, I'll put them under hashtags now. That's what I've got is 2. So I need to. Nope. I guess I might have messed up. No, here it is. Yeah, this is it when I cleaned it up, I believe. Nope, this is the editing I guess I'm showing you right now. Anyways, you have a great day. The next time, like I said, I'll be putting it all together and you'll see what I wanted to show you here. But I just know that I had to go through this text to show you and explain to you my editing. And I'll see you in the next video.